Okay, welcome to the 2024 Olympic Games Judging Recap. I'm head judge Renton Millar. Well done to all the people that competed and participated. I think everyone can get a lot from hearing how all the skaters were scored. There's different examples that apply to different people that may happen to your skaters in the future or yourself. And it's probably cool to just hear how the judges interpreted each performance from each skater. So my role is head judge. So my job is to lead the judging panel. I have to make sure that they do all of their pre-event work and make sure they have all the information needed to do an accurate job of judging. I try and give them as much information as I can possible. So I watch as much practice as I can. I skate the course as much as I can. I try and get used to it, try and figure out how it works. Again, what things will affect people's runs and as many details as I can get. And then I try and give all of that as much as possible to the judges. They also do the same. I need to make sure they're scoring in a way that adheres to the World Skate criteria. I also overlook the judges' scoring and the rankings and watch out for any anomalies in their process or their scoring. The judging panel at the Olympic Games was 5 scoring judges and an alternate judge. What I have learnt while judging is the judges are looking at the skaters under a very close microscope. And myself as a head judge, I look at the bigger picture. I look at a number of other things that are happening. I might be checking scores with previous days round. I may be looking to remind the judges of things that may be coming in the competition. And also my job is to do my best to keep the scoring spaced. So that means we don't get jammed up. We don't get someone with the 76.6 and the 76.7 that would allow no one else to go in between it. So that's one of my responsibilities. Everyday scores will vary. So between different phases, scores can be different. That's something that you always have to remember with skating in competitions, world skate competitions. The most important thing to look at is not the score, but the ranking. So the judges are scoring to the ranking and they give the particular score based on the ranking that they want the skateboarder to have. So that's very important. It's one to remember. Again, just remember that scores will vary from day to day. Okay, so women's park recap. Olympic Games, going to start with the prelims. 22nd place, we have Aya Assequas from Morocco. So in her run, we had Fakey Smith to rock to Fakey. Bit of an interesting trick. Had a bail in there, so 19 seconds remaining, so not the strongest runs. I'm not sure Africans have the same access to skate parks as we do as everyone else. Hopefully skateboarding in the Olympics makes it a bit more accessible to everyone. But well done representing Africa and becoming an Olympian to Aya. Well done. So 21st place, we had Nana Tabule. So run number 3. So she bailed with 18 seconds remaining, so that obviously hurt her run quite a bit. So a little bit of information about her run. She had a vert extension hand plant that wasn't the most extended. Judges looking to, whenever we see a trick, want to see it done really well. I know some of those extensions were hard to get speed for, but that's something that you kind of have to allow for. Waterfall backside nose grinder deep, good move. Hip up to backside 50-50 is good. It's a nice line, but she bailed. Had a vert extension backside Malin in there. Just to note, we have a lot of Malins going down. It's probably the most done trick. So if you want to bring something to your run that's a little bit different, a bit more creative, it's probably good to think of moves that are less done. I mean, a lot of people did Malins. There's nothing wrong with the Malin. It is a good trick. It's a fun trick. But you just got to remember that certain tricks are done more often, and on those tricks that are done by a lot of people, you have less of a chance to get sort of noticed by the judges. 20th place, we had Faye Ebert, run number 3. So she had a nice start. Small vert extension backside Malin. It was also the second backside Malin she'd done, so probably want to see a bit more variety there. The corner frontside lip slide was done really well. Hip to spine frontside air was good, but it was the second frontside air. She bailed with 9 seconds remaining. That really strongly affected her run. She's a great skater, great base of fundamentals, and she's going to get stronger. Well done, Faye. So Ministes, best run was run number 2. She had a bail with 10 seconds remaining. Bail's always going to be a bit of a problem. Everyone knows that. The grind off extension frontside 50-50 up, that was gnarly. Like the actual back truck wasn't on, it was like a rollout. She still made it. So bit of a sort of gnarly landing on that. That was pretty wild. The hip to spine frontside lip slide, that's a good trick. It's a good way to use that obstacle. Also the backside 360 over the jump box. I guess not quite. It's a little bit more than 360, but that was a rad trick. That was a creative trick. Vert extension backside Malin was small. Obviously, we know that small airs are not going to get the same positive attention as bigger airs. It was a fairly good run, good use of the park, but the bail really affected that. I mean, I think we all know how hard bails affect runs. 18th place, we had Zheng Hao Hao with her first run. So, young skater, very young, I think the youngest in the competition. Huge future, but we don't judge it on compared to someone's age. And so, I'm going to do a bit of explaining, ignoring her age, which might seem a little harsh given that she's only 11 years old, but hopefully it helps. So the tail over the spine, it's a super basic trick. Super basic. It's the Olympics, so probably want to have something a little bit more advanced. Same with backing it up with the backside 5 around the corner. They're 2 really basic tricks. She can do some really hard tricks, we know that. Some really technical tricks. Some of the competitions we've seen in the past, doing stuff like kickflip Indy, fakie 540, it's been some really strong tricks. So we know that she can do it. After the tail over the spine, the backside 5-0 was followed up with a couple more basic small airs, small frontside ollie. Indy was okay. Malin jump box to deck check was a bit low on the execution. So we have a lot of very basic tricks in a row. 360 backside ollie was low. It's a technical trick for the ladies, But at the same time, like at the level of that we're at, the Olympics, we really would prefer to see stuff done in a bit better of an execution. But she's an 11-year-old girl and she's shredding, so I don't want to take too much away from her. Hopefully everyone can take something from it and get an idea of how and why the judges are judging the way they do. Half cab backside blunt is okay. I mean, it's a good trick, but again, the thing is like it's a quarter pipe trick, so there's no real, bells and whistles to the obstacle. It's just a straight quarter pipe trick, but it's a cool trick. The switch box rollover, we're not the biggest fans of rolling over the box. I guess that's kind of the equivalent of just rolling out and rolling in on a quarter pipe or something. It's not really a trick. At the level of skating we're at, we'd probably prefer to be encouraging people to do tricks on each obstacle. But the Caballerial is great. So Caballerial is a classic trick. I think there's a bunch of classic tricks out there that are just all time. Stuff like backside Smith, backside lip slides, frontside grinds. I think Caballerial's in that same group. It's a nice trick. It was a fairly rad run from Zheng. I'm just being very critical, just so everyone can take something from it. But good run, well done to make the Olympics. I think she's 11 years old. That's absolutely amazing. Like, I think I just started skating at 11, so that's truly a really good effort. 17th place, we had Julia Benedetti. So good use of park. She went fast, maybe a little bit safe at the end. I know when you get to the end of the run and the pressure's on, sometimes you just want to make your run and sometimes you sacrifice a bit to just stay on your board. But the only problem is if you do that, you are going to it gets noticed by the judges. So the start was great. She dropped in from the vert to backside Smith, fast, proper tricks. Frontside tail grab nose grind is a cool trick. I think she does it well. Roller frontside ollie was small but good, powerful and controlled. She was skating as fast as she could. That's always appreciated. You skate as fast as you could. That is a good thing. Jump box India with no deck check is good. We have a few people landing short, but she well and truly cleared it. The deep end frontside air, I do recommend grabbing behind the knee on frontside airs. So the only thing is she had 2 frontside ollies in there. At the end, it was fairly cruise mode, but she made it, and the frontside tail slide in the deep was nice. So that's a rad run. Well done, Julia. I think she's second-time Olympian. Good stuff. Okay, so 16th we had Emily Alexandre, run number 3. So great run, good use of the park. Roll in, vert extension, tail grab, body varial. Backside melon over the hip, frontside air. Backside board side on the rail. So fairly good use of the park. Backside feeble grind on the deep end. Fairly good rounded park run. Maybe not the best execution. Had a couple of tricks that were sort of like backside feeble. It's not the hardest trick, I suppose. It's better than the backside 50-50. It's a good little filler trick. With the judo air, they generally probably look better if you grab backside rather than the nose. It's not the hardest trick, so anytime that you have like a trick that's sort of fairly basic, you want to try and make sure that it's sort of executed well. The grind off extension backside 50-50 off is a really good trick. Use of park, just a solid, good way to use the park. And then over the spine, we had the frontside feeble to backside Smith. I think that's a great trick. That's a really cool trick. Every time I saw it, I thought that was pretty rad. But making a run hometown, or I don't know if Paris is a hometown, but in France, that was rad. Well done, Emily. So 15th place, we had Lola Tambling with run number 1. So Lola skates differently to a lot of other people, so it stands out from most immediately. The front board slides are a great move. It's not a trick that a lot of girls do. She did the channel ollie to backside board slide, which I think might have been one of 2 or 3 girls. I think maybe Bryce did a lip slide up it. But hitting that obstacle in a way that no one else is doing, it's definitely a trick that no one else is doing. So that's going to sort of go down pretty well. So in the middle of the run, there probably was a few tricks that were not really the hardest. I think there was a frontside kick turn, backside 5-0, frontside ollie. It's not the hardest line. I know that when you're under pressure, you just need to make it. So I don't want to sit here and go, yeah, you should have been doing harder tricks, because she stayed on her board. That was rad, but just being hypercritical. The unit, the frontside 540 and the vert quarter was a little bit low, a little bit sloppy, but really, like, she made it. It's better than bailing. I'm being pretty harsh. It was a rad run, but we're just comparing it to the best skaters in the world skating the biggest competition in the world. But yeah, well done, Lola. In 14th place, we had Lily Stophasius with her run number 3. So she started off pretty well, got around the park, using the grind off extension in a line to the jump box hip, backside melon alley-oop. So that was a pretty sick line, good use of park. The deep end frontside lip slide was also really good. In some of the runs it didn't count, she did really long ones, they were really cool. Anytime you do something really long or better than everyone else, or just make everyone go, whoa, it's very cool. The lip slide that she did in her run was manageable, but I think in one of her previous runs she did a really long one. But that was cool. It makes it a little bit exciting. The backside nose blunt on the setback ledge, that's creative. It's on an obstacle. And anytime you do something that's creative and you're using an obstacle, it stands out, brings a lot to your run. And yeah, it was a great run. Well done, Lily. Okay, in 13th place, we had Ruby Lily on her run number 2. So she has really good backside melons. Deep end backside melon, really big. Then came up with a lean disaster on the vert extension. So lean disaster, not really a trick that other people do. So it's a little bit creative, a bit memorable. She also did a backside disaster on the vert extension, which, just as an observation, it's not really the best trick to do, but those extensions were really hard to get speed for. And other girls did like really small backside airs or backside melons. It was a struggle to get speed for that extension. And so I thought it was a nice touch to do a backside disaster rather than do a backside air that was too low. Not that was like a key part of her trick, but it was just something I noticed. Like it's better to do a backside disaster than below coping backside air. Hip to spine backside melon. We're getting to a little bit of repetition. It was a second backside melon, but we had the hip frontside nose grind up the extension over the hip. So that trick's hard. No one else did it. So again, if you're doing stuff that no one else does, it stands out. I think it's quite an advanced lip trick. I think whenever you get a fundamental trick and you do it in a way that is advanced, I think that brings a lot, because I think if it's a fundamental trick, it's almost should be obvious to people that it can be done. But if no one's doing it, it's because it's hard. And so I think that's one of the things, like a frontside nose grind over a hip up an extension. I think that was something that was going to be rewarded. A great run, just needed a little bit more to make it. There's some great skate. This is so competitive. This whole group of skaters, best skaters in the world, skating at the biggest competition in the world. It's competitive. 12th place had Heike Ventura. So Heike's had some great performances this season. On this day, she came out a little bit underwhelming. I thought she did need a bit more to make it through to the top 8. She came 12th, so a little bit further away. She did do some good stuff though. Grind if extension, frontside 50-50 is good. The jump box melon 3 was good. The hip to spine lip slide, the square cane lip slide, that was good. I think she can skate good enough. She just didn't do enough today. And there wasn't anything that just stood out greatly enough to make the cut. But obviously she's a great skater, well done hiker. She's now an Olympian. Cool. Okay, so in 11th place we had Ruby True with her run number 1. It was a really good run. It just wasn't quite good enough. Started with a backside Smith grind. Backside Smith grind, classic move. Whenever you do it long and make it look good, judges are going to take notice. Come out first ball and do a Smith grind like she did. Judges love it. Jump box Japan was only a slight Japan. Better than a mute, but not quite as good as a fully fledged Japan. But it was cool. Did the setback ledge, frontside 50-50 in and ollied in, which is great. We all know that ollie's more difficult than sort of yanking it in. A really good ollie, a really good run, using all of the park, just not quite enough. She ended it, I think, with the pivot to fakie over the spine into the cab mute over the hip. That was also really, really good. It just probably wasn't enough stuff in her run, as in like she just didn't quite do enough to make it into the top 8, or didn't quite do enough to beat the person that was one ahead of her, which was 10th place, which was Sakura. But a great event. Good skating for Ruby, just not quite good enough to make the cut. So in 10th place we had Sakura. So she had a great run, lots of control, super advanced skateboarder with a lot of skills. I think this situation is just a matter of like other people skating better. I guess you always take that risk when you just make a run and don't risk too much. You just risk getting bumped out by other people that put the foot to the floor a little bit more and give a bit more gas. And I think that's what happened to Sakura. So great run, lots of control. So 360 ollie in there, good trick, but it wasn't really at the top. So at this level where we're deciding people going into the cut, we've been super critical of everything. Also there was a backside 50-50 in there. That really affects her consistency. You have other girls that don't have like too many setups. Backside 50-50, I mean you can have it in there, but it's going to be something that judges are going to take note. They're going to go, oh, that was backside 50-50. They don't just let it slip. You know, they'll take that into consideration. Sakura's airs weren't massive. She's a very chill skater. It looks very casual when she's skating. I don't think it's a fact that she's not putting effort in. I think she just is a super controlled skateboarder with a lot of skill. But I think she probably just needed to do more. I think that's a little bit of a theme from the skaters that just almost made the cut. They did make a run, they just didn't quite do enough, and the skaters that beat them just did a little bit more. 9th place, we had Isadora Pacheco on her first run. So just missing the cut by 1. I think Isadora really got her points from use of the park. I think it was pretty close between Sakura and Isadora. Two really, really different skaters. Isadora really attacks the park. Sakura is more technical, a little bit more chill. I think Isadora got a lot of points from 5-0 up to Smith grind, up the extension, use of the park. Ending with the frontside 50-50 to fakie was good. It was just a nice little cherry on top. Her run was really well put together. As a whole, the run was very, very good. I will say though, she did do 2 frontside 5-0s. We have to look for this. Repetition is part of the criteria. And Isadora has good style. She does skate very, very well. So she makes it look good. I'll just give a little bit of a difference between making the cut, I think, between Isadora and Dora. Because Dora made the cut ahead of Isadora in 8th place. I think Dora had better use of the park. Her consistency was better. She had more throughout her entire run. She had a bit more intensity, and she didn't really do any 50-50s or any basic tricks. She really went for it from start to finish. Dora Varela, run number 2, made it into 8th place. Started off with a deep end frontside grind in. It's a little bit of a original way to start your run. A little bit more than just dropping in, different to rolling in. So immediately just starting with a little bit of difference. Vert extension hand plant could have been a little bit extended more. That was a very hard line for speed. I found that to be very hard to get to with speed. The grind off extension frontside tail slide was great. I think she was the only person to do it. If you're the only person to do a fundamental trick, it really, really shows that, you know, the trick's either difficult or really, really easy. But in this case, I think, you know, for the other ladies, I think it stands out as something difficult. Jump box mute 360, it was good. It's good to see a different grab. I'm not too sure if we saw many people do a mute 360. I think Millar 360 was the go-to grab. On the setback ledge frontside axle indie in, it was a little bit sketchy. So the jump box heel flip indie was great. It was done well. It's not the most stock flip trick. It's something a little bit different. It's not that common over a jump box, and it was executed well. It was a risk that she took and a risk that I think paid off. And that may well have been the thing that put her over the edge that got her into 8th. Also, when Dora did do that trick, when I rewatched it, it looked like she was smiling when she did that heel flip indie, or straight after it. That's pretty rad. So Dora ended with a 50-50 to fakie. And so with a lot of newer, less experienced girls, this trick gets butchered a bit. A lot of people don't do this trick very well. Maybe not so much in the higher level world skate competitions, but a lot of people, you know, put all 4 wheels down and slide in. I thought the way that Dora did it, she did it really nicely with her weight in the bowl and came in on a back truck. I thought that was pretty cool. Well done, Dora. Good stuff. 7th place in prelims, we had Nia Lasso with run number 2. A great run. It earned a lot of its merits doing fundamental tricks well. A lot to be said about fundamentals done well, especially when they're tricks that no one else is doing. Backside tail grab at the start, it's pretty stock trick, pretty normal, but no one else is doing it. I mean, it surprises me. I think that's a fairly easy trick. I think when everyone else is doing melons, to just switch up and do a backside tail grab, I think it brings a lot of value. Like, it's immediately noticed by the judges. So the hip backside ollie tail slide is a great move. Another fundamental trick just over a key obstacle, just over a pretty standard obstacle. So immediately 2 walls in, Nia's shown that she's doing fundamental tricks that other people aren't doing, and doing them well. Does a deep end backside lip slide, which is another one. Just classic timeless moves. She's shown she has a high level of skill and a deep vocabulary of classic fundamentals. Grind off extension lip slide up. That's a pretty powerful trick. She did it at speed perfectly, really, really good. And then the jump box melon 360 and the deep end backside air, all done really, really well. And yeah, that was a great performance. Well done. So in 6th place prelims, we had Arissa True. So 360 into a McTwist, 360 melon into a McTwist. Arissa's McTwist are always pretty nice. I think she does it better than most. Maybe does the best McTwist out of anyone. It's always a great trick to see. But if the judges have seen a McTwist in a run where a skater's using the park, it brings a lot more to that McTwist. And the McTwist brings a lot to the use of the park. If you bring those two things together, those two things become more impressive, I think. Basically because the use of the park complements the McTwist complements the use of the park. It's great. So 540s can be done well, and they can be done not so well. Arissa does them very well. Vert extension Madonna, probably not the best Madonna, but it was just a filler trick. Hip frontside air was good. Just grab tuck knee. Tuck knee is always important. Anytime you do a fundamental trick well, it's better to do a fundamental trick well than not well. Grind off extension 50-50 and the frontside 50-50 off the hip. just good use of the park. You know, not the hardest tricks, but just nice use of the park. Nose grinder fakie was good. Maybe be executed a little bit better. The jump box switch melon lands on all four wheels. That was really short. I don't think anyone came up that short on the jump box air. It's a technical trick, but the execution was extremely poor. The judges will avoid rewarding stuff like that. At pro or Olympic level, the execution is a big consideration. The hip lip slide up the extension is like the way she ended. Like, it's a good way to use the obstacles as well. But anyway, a great run. Well done, Arissa. So 5th place, Hayley Servio with run number 2. Melon 360 to deep end 540. This is a great line. We rewarded it. Starting to see, like, Arissa also did that move. I have a feeling the way skating's going, like next season we might see, you know, with that same setup with a box and a quarter, we might see a lot of people going 360 to 540, which is good in one respect. We're seeing some progression, but the more we're seeing people do that stuff, the less we're going to reward it. That's just, you know, the innovation of skateboarding and people doing stuff for the first time. It becomes something that stands out, but with more and more people that do it, the judges will put value on other things. But at this stage, it was a great way to start your run. We rewarded Arissa for it. We rewarded Hayley for it. She had a good line around the park as well. Hip to spine fronted lip slide was nice and long. Always important to do your lip tricks as long as possible. Unfortunately, over the big hair hip, she did a frontside kick turn. I don't know why there was a kick turn there. Maybe it was the only thing that was going to get her to the line. Obviously, the judges prefer no kick turns, but she had some other good stuff. So overall impression, it kind of smoothed some things out there. The vert extension backside melon off was a little bit low. The backside boardside on the rail was good for some mixture. Into the deep end Andrecht. Andrecht is a good addition, but let's just talk about some execution. So, message to all skaters that are doing invert, you want to try and do them as best you can. You want to extend your arm. There's something said about like trying to do this stuff as well as you can. I mean, I completely understand sometimes you're not going to do tricks as well as you can do them every time, but it's just good to if you're doing a hand plant, it's the sort of trick where you can get lazy and not extend it, and the judges will see it every time. So that's just a little bit of a note. If you do it, this is not just to Hayley and, you know, this particular Andrecht, it's just basically everyone. You know, if you're going to do an Andrecht or an invert, just try stretch it. It's going to be better. So Hayley had some great execution for a lot of tricks like the box jumps and the McTwist lip slide, and that's why she got a good score. Fairly good use of the park. It's been great seeing her get better over the last 18 months. Well done, Hayley. So 4th place, we had Sky Brown with her first run. So tail high tuck knee invert, she was doing really, really well. Anytime you make a trick look good, it's going to be good. To be critical, between that and the alley-oop, there was a fair bit of carving, but between two good tricks, as judges, I suppose, they can sort of take that into consideration, but you don't want to do too much carving. Waterfall backside tail slide to the deep. Backside tail slide is such a good trick and just powerful and good. So, and not a lot of people doing it, and not a lot of people doing it into the deep in that spot. So definitely going to get rewarded anytime you're doing a trick that not many people are doing, especially if you're doing it in a spot where other people aren't doing it. So the tail spine transfer probably would have been better with a little bit more of a slide, or definitely would have been better with a little bit more of a slide. I think it slopes a little bit. The stalefish into the corner, I think anytime you add something to a straight quarter pipe trick, it will be better. You can do a straight quarter pipe frontside stalefish, but if you go around the corner, it's going to add so much to it. Straight quarter pipe is the easiest and most plain obstacle in any of these courses. So when Sky takes it around the corner, it just brings more to the trick. So the spine frontside 360 is also really, really good. Possibly the best trick of the competition over the spine. And so in that case, she stood out. It was a great solid run from Sky. Well done. So third place, we had Kusaki Hinano. Started with a banger, backside 3, had a lot of speed. She used the whole park. Did the 540. She didn't do it on the face wall. It wasn't the most obvious spot to do a 540. So the judges noticed that. Like, if there's a spot that's like the most obvious spot for a trick and you go do it somewhere else, it's a bit harder. Going to get more of a reward for it if you do it a certain way. And doing it on that sort of side wall that was interpreted as being a little bit more to it, the line, maybe a little bit harder than doing it just on the straight wall. She skated as fast as she could. There was a kick turn in there. If you have a small thing like that, but you're skating as fast as you can and you're doing really, really hard tricks, the judges are more likely to overlook some form of area where you're, I don't want to say a mistake, but somewhere it lacks a little bit. If you've gone super hard in other areas, that's a part of overall impression. You know, other things can make up for things. And in this case, skating super fast will almost be your ticket out of anything. Like, if the judge is going to look at you do a trick and you do something that's not quite right with it, they're going to overlook it if you're going as fast as you can. So when in doubt, go as fast as you can. It's a good little idea, I think. But obviously, when you go faster, it increases the difficulty of everything. So you can't just do that every single time. But I think a lot can be said about people that skate as fast as they can. She also used the park really, really well. So yeah, good stuff. Well done. So second place, we had Bryce. So wow, like that was a great run from Bryce. It wasn't expected. I think in the practice, we hadn't really seen what she was going to do. She started with a frontside nose blunt. I don't think anyone else did a frontside nose blunt any stage of their run. I think it's a great way to start a run with something that's hard, something that no one else is doing. Like, it immediately set her apart. She backed it up with an obstacle that not many others were hitting, with the trick that no one else is doing, the frontside lip slide over the channel, up the extension. Immediately, the judges are looking to score something like that highly. 2 tricks that no one else is doing, hitting an obstacle that no one else is doing. That's going to be like, bang. Judges are going to be looking at that going, wow, this could be a really, really good run. I will say between those 2 tricks, there was a fair bit of carving. So, you know, it's basically one trick here, carve the whole park, and then one trick here. But again, going back to that overall impression, the difficulty, the creativity of those 2 tricks was something that offset that a lot of carving. Caballerial is great. Mute fast plant is great. I think rarely do you see girls do great backside fast plants. By the way, if you want to see some good fast plants to model your fast plants on, check out Chris Millar or Neil Blender. But I think that was a good little mute fast plant from Bryce. There's a lot of quarter pipey tricks, but they're all done well, and there's some creativity and good use of the park in other areas. So that was a really good run. The judges were impressed, and she qualified in second. Well done, Bryce. First place qualifier, Olympic Games 2024 in Paris, was Hiraki Kokona. Run number 2. So she started off strong. The frontside nose grind is amazing. Anytime you do a trick better than everyone else, it stands out. Anytime you do a trick anything that you do better than everyone else, it just stands out immediately. And a lot of what Kokona does absolutely stand out. The frontside nose grind, just the poise, the balance, just the overall execution is really, really good. Feeble grind, so she started off feeble grind on the rail, frontside nose grind around the corner, and the waterfall to shallow backside tail slide. They're 3 great walls, done really well, executed great. Just a really good way to start your run. Next wall was the India over the hip. It was a little bit small. We're going to be hypercritical. We're judging the Olympics. India was small. First 3 tricks were great. So the set back box Smith was really good. It didn't grind, but other skaters were just stalling and yanking it in. So the feeble to spine is a great looking trick. There's a lot of flow. It looked good. I don't think it's like the most technical or hard trick, but it just looked good. It links together the skate park, uses obstacle, and brings a lot to the run. So Lena Taylor in the deep, fairly straightforward, easy trick, but she makes it look good. Starfish Disaster, original, dynamic trick, great trick. Any originality, creativity is good. Did the jump box hip India, easy trick, but she just makes it look good. So Kokona has her own style. She's a leader. She doesn't replicate other people's tricks. She's generally the person that brings the tricks into the events, and she leads with the stuff that she does. It's creative, it's original. She uses the entire park, and her runs are very well put together, consistently with a lot of flow throughout the whole run. And it's just a great use of park, great trick selection, and a great run. That's why it qualified in first. Okay, so now I have the women's final from the 2024 Paris Olympics. I'm going to go through 8th place. We had Kasaki Hinano with run number 3. So she bailed with 11 seconds remaining, which is going to affect her score quite strongly. So jump box Saran wrap 360. It's a difficult trick. It's original, creative, so it gets the judge's attention. It's also quite risky, maybe a little bit dangerous. So definitely something that piques the judge's attention. So the square Kano hip to spine kickflip was great. Great obstacle, great trick, all there. Hip to grind off extension fronted air was good. Grabbing between the legs, it's definitely good. The gap's good. Often find that fronted airs grabbing around the leg generally look better. Depending on the skater, I'm sure it varies. But yeah, it's been a great run. So the grind off extension hip gap backside melon. So that gap, not many people were doing it. Maybe no other girls. So when you're hitting a part of the park that no one else is hitting, and there's all the best skaters in the world there, and you're the only person hitting this gap, that generally means it's pretty good. So that was good too. So Hanano was building a run of a lot of stuff that was original and difficult with great use of the park. Linking it all together, looking like a great run. She bailed a 540. Bummer. I mean, that would have been a great addition to the run. And it cost her a lot, unfortunately, bailing with 11 seconds to go. But 8th place at the Olympic Games is pretty good. Well done. 7th place, we had Nia Lasso, run number 3. So a great run. I did a lot of commenting about it in the prelims before. Great fundamentals. Same run as the last phase. There's no point for repeating between rounds. But what I do see sometimes is when skaters are repeating the same runs over and over, sometimes they lose a bit of passion in their run. The run becomes more routine. I don't think that was the case here. I think this run was great. No, I didn't back off. She went for it. I don't think this run was any less good than the previous round. Or her approach wasn't any less passionate, or her attack was the same. The backlip was better in the prelims run, but it was also done very well in the final. She didn't lose points for having the same run between rounds. There's no loss of points for that. 6th place, we had Bryce Wetstein. So run number 1, a bit of the same stuff in this run. She changed up a few tricks. So start off with the nose blunt. So a great way to start in one respect, doing a trick that no one else is doing. But in the finals, we have an environment where most people are dropping in and pumping as hard as they can. So sometimes if you do a trick that's more technical first straight off the bat, your speed and execution doesn't quite look the same as someone else is just dropping in and just going as fast as humanly possible. So in qualifying, the skaters were skating at a certain tempo, and that gets raised for the finals. So while I think it's a great way to start a run, it did mean that starting with the nose blunt wasn't starting with as much sort of gusto as the other skaters in the finals. But she did regain her speed for the lip slide over the channel. So that combo is pretty good way to start. Again, you don't lose points for repetition between rounds. Vert extension caballerial, always nice. She made it stick to her feet. It popped. Yeah, a great run. 6th place, well done, Bryce. 5th place, we had Haley. A great run. Haley's just finding her feet at this level. We had some standout tricks and combos. Obviously, the 360 to McTwist, the lip slide from the hip to spine, and the final combo. Really strong combo. I think up there with some of the raddest things I've seen in girl skateboarding, like the board side to fakie into the fakie 5. Just good stuff. Bit of street and vert combination together. But on the other side, I think, you know, when we take Haley's run up to the finals against the best in the world, competing for the highest level of skateboarding, we can see those strengths. But then on the other side, we can also see on some of the filler walls, there probably needs to be, there's not the same execution as the other skaters. Years are maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit less power in between it. She's still young and learning, and her power is going to get better. A great performance, really well done. 5th place for Haley. 4th place, we had Dora with her 3rd run. So that was a great run. I think, you know, we've seen all these skaters skate over the last 18 months. And at the Olympic Games, we've seen a lot of people skate really well. But I think it's pretty cool when we've seen some of these skaters have their best runs at the highest level, like peak at the Olympics. I think that's what Dora did. It was great to watch. So I think that was the best run that Dora had done the past 2 years of us judging. Great use of the park, top execution. It was going to be hugely critical. I would say that we did have 2 heel flip indies there. I mean, it's a difficult trick, and no one really else flipped their board twice, so there is an upside and there's some reward. But I think we can say that perhaps a different flip grab trick would have scored better. We know it's on 2 different obstacles, so it's 2 different things, but essentially it is the same trick. We're just being super technical, looking at it super close because everyone's ripping so hard. But yeah, it is good to have 2 flip tricks in there. You're not getting like docked points for doing 2 flip tricks. It's just very there's a lot of similarities in there, and that's only when we have to do the hardcore comparing between 2 different skaters and between Dora and Sky. So Sky got a bronze medal, so well done, Dora. That was amazing. But 3rd place, we had Sky Brown, run number 3. So again, had the vert extension tail high tuck knee invert, quite stretched. The big air hip frontside alley-oop. No one's doing the frontside alley-oop. The waterfall backside tail to deep. Great fundamental rad trick in a rad spot. I said that before, but I'll say it again. Backside lip slide is also a advanced trick for the girls. Fundamental trick, advanced, looks good, rad trick. Kickflip indie deck check over the box. She did deck check it, but no one else kickflip indied the long way. I mean, Dora did the heel flip indie over the short bit, but really like the long way was much longer. And Sky did it really good. She did deck check it, but I think, you know, we can sort of give her a little bit of a pass. It was big and was good. Front 3 over the spine was also really good. Again, best trick that anyone really did in the competition. Really great as far as on that obstacle. A really great run, probably just not as good as Kokona and Arissa. So she got bronze, but well done, Sky. Okay, so silver medalist, Kokona Hiraki, run number 3. So a great combination, very similar to her last run. Great way to start a run with the feeble grind on the rail, the frontside nose grind in the corner, really doing tricks, executing them in a way that looks really nice. Everything is done properly, grinding long, very advanced, fundamental, classic skateboard tricks. Using all of the skate park. Got the backside tail slide into the waterfall. Got the Smith to feeble over the spine. And then basically adding in there the kickflip indie over the jump box hip. And then coming back and doing a wall ride on the setback box. A lot of power and a lot of purpose. And a lot of really, really nice looking skateboarding. A really sick run. Very different to Arissa's. But on this day, Arissa had her. Okay, so gold medalist, we had Arissa True. Some amazing skateboarding. Run number 3. So, drop in to a jump box backside melon 3. Deep end McTwist, which she seemed to be able to do very, very easily. Actually, I think she could pretty much do it when she's asleep. She makes it look really, really good. She came back to the extension and replaced the Madonna with the body varial 540, which I think brings a lot to the run just because it replaced the Madonna. And then I also think that it's a 540 and she's already done a McTwist, but on the body varial 5, it rotates differently to a McTwist and it's a bit of a different variation. So it brought a bit to her run. She did squat on this one, but it was way better than the Madonna first one. So hip fronted air wasn't huge, but it was filler. It was just to get to the next spot. But, you know, she does it grab and tuck knee. Looks nice, just wasn't huge. So the big air hip kickflip indie was a big upgrade to her last run. Her last run had a backside melon. Backside melon's a trick that is done by, it's probably the most done, I haven't done any statistics on it, but I would assume one of the most common tricks in the whole competition is a backside melon. Like a lot of people do it. So when you take it out and you replace a trick that everybody does with a trick that nobody else does, I think that brings a lot of value to your run. Especially a trick like a kickflip indie, it's very risky. And then prior to that, she's also done the melon 3, the McTwist, the body varial 5. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of tricks. Like you get into the stage where it's pretty risky. Every wall, like most walls are a standout in this run. And when I say it's a standout, it's most walls. I don't know really if there's any other girls doing any of it really. It may be one or two other girls are doing one bit here or one bit there, but she's putting it together all together in one run. So the kickflip indie over the hip. I could be critical and say that it could be bigger, but again, it's just in a combination where she's done all of this other stuff and she's risking from start to finish. It's a high pressure situation. She's taking risks and it was a little small, but I think in this situation with so much going on before it and what's going to come after it, the judges are pretty much going to overlook that. So the vert extension backside 50-50 off, it's not the hardest trick, but in light of what has already been done in the run, it brings a lot to it because she has a lot of stuff that's just like very tricky, and then that one becomes more about use of the park. So the backside 50-50 then comes off the grind off extension, then pumps around, and then frontside 50-50 is off the spine into the square Kano hip. So that's just good use of park. Two basic tricks, you know, like on parts of the park that really shine a light on two key pieces of the park. So start of the run, you got all these tricks. Then at that point, you've got a big light being shined on these obstacles and showing Arissa's use of the park. So the carve out of the grind off extension, she was pumping as hard as she could. And so it just shows that you're giving 100%. You're pumping as hard as you can. It means you're giving it all. And that's really important. I think from a judge to see someone giving everything, it definitely means a lot. There was no holding back. Nose grind to fakie, good way to connect the tricks. The switch melon over the box, deck checked on 4 wheels, definitely not optimal. Don't want to promote people landing 4 wheels on the jump box. It's not a good look for a competition so high. But given what was before it and the intensity of the run, everything that's gone down, we can give it a little bit of a pass because it's compensated. It's just been so intense, so much consistency throughout the run, so much good use of the park, so much difficulty in the tricks. We're just keen to see what happens next. So straight after that was a frontside cab Indy. So I think in the first event, Arissa did this move and we really weren't rewarding it. The execution was just not good enough. It was pretty poor. It was grabbing when the wheels were still on the surface, grab between the legs, and not very high. At this level, at the Olympics and the highest level of skating, we love innovation. We want to see more and more new things, but at the same time, it's got to be of a certain quality. So at that stage again, at the start of the season, with the type of the execution that Arissa was doing with the frontside cab Indy, it really didn't get much of a reward. However, this one was proper. So I must admit she did squat out of it, but whatever. It's an innovation. I don't think we're seeing many girls do this trick. It was out the top. It was grab tuck knee. It was grab late. Whenever you're doing something that no one else is doing, it's like an innovation, bringing something to skateboarding. And so I think that was great. And I think, in light of what came before, the switch air over the box landing on 4 wheels, and then what happened in the frontside cab Indy, I think that means that we don't look so much on the thing that was less good, landing all 4 wheels on the box. So after that, we got a backside grind, which obviously not a difficult trick, but at some point, everyone's got to have a little bit of a breather and recoup when you've got another trick coming. We've just seen a great combo before. I think perhaps one of the best combos I've ever seen from a female in a competition. And then after the backside 5-0, we had the frontside nose blunt Indy grab revert on the setback box. So I've never seen that trick. I'm sure it's been done before. It's on an obstacle in the park that is a bit different. So creative trick, bit of a creative obstacle, use in the park, good execution, and in light of everything that's happened before, it really rounded out the run really, really well. Brought some flavour and a bit of personality, and I think that combination of that entire run of the use of the park, the difficulty of the tricks, the variety of the tricks, the consistency and flow, the creativity, all of it, it just meant that was the best run that we saw, and that's why I got the gold medal. Well done, Arissa. Thanks everyone for watching. See you at the next event.